Good afternoon. My name is Tammy Carter. I am the operations manager for Shaw Medical Travel Consultants, and I'm joined with Reanne McKenzie of the White River Fish Sanctuary. And we're going to have a discussion this afternoon on the program that they have regarding the coral reef. And Rian, whenever I, got onto the website and, I actually wanted to delve into a little bit more information for my own self. One of the things when you look at the program, it says, 75% of the coral reef since 1975 is unhealthy. So let's just start with what happened to the coral reef right there in Jamaica.
Okay, first of all, let me say thank you for giving us the opportunity to join and collaborate with you guys today. There have been a series of hurricanes in the 1980s. Two in particular, those were very strong, and so those just completely overturned corals, just really damaged the protection that, is out there at sea. And then there was a disease that passed through that targeted the key herbivores, which are black sea urchins. So they are responsible for keeping the algae levels at bay. And there was a disease that literally wiped them out. So that was another problem. So you had corals being destroyed from the hurricanes, and then you had this disease that led to the die-off of these urchins, which led to more algae growth. And so those were the two main things. And then as industrialization and a lot of hotels along the coast and as those things increased over the years, then you have coastal pollution. So it's a series of things that has occurred over a couple of decades that has really led to the coral reefs not being able to rejuvenate themselves as fast as they could because of all these things that kept happening, year after year, decade after decade.
Yeah, a slow but steady erosion, you could say. So can you just provide like a brief overview of the company, the history, the objectives, and the division that you're in? And then we'll get to your role.
Okay. So the White River Fish Sanctuary, the idea came up in about 2015. So what happened is a lot of the fishermen, they were going out and they were having some problems. They're getting less catch and they're getting smaller fish every time they go out. And this is happening continuously over, several years until they were really struggling to provide for themselves and provide for their families. This is the White River fishing community.
Yeah.
So, they're struggling, they're having problems, they're not catching fish. People aren't really coming to buy fish from them anymore because they're, this small size. And then, so they know about another sanctuary that was established years before the White River got established in 2011, I believe they got started. And they heard, and it's just a few miles away from where we are. So they know about it. So they said, oh, I wonder if we can try it down here. So the fishermen, they reached out to actually some of the community members and hotels and, got people interested. And they came together and they said, okay, we're going to form an association. And the hoteliers and the other community members will also form an association. And those two associations will come together and create the fish sanctuary, which will be a community-led project, which means that the White River fishermen as a community are responsible for everything in terms of establishing the sanctuary, the operations of the sanctuary, everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, it took a while. A lot of preparation was into it. And it took 2 years to come up with, or to finalize everything.
Yeah.
And they took it to the Ministry of Fisheries, who then said to go ahead and demarcate this area and call it the White River Fish Sanctuary, and let the fishermen themselves have an opportunity to get some extra income. So the Ministry of Fisheries trained some of the fishermen to become wardens, and those wardens are responsible for protecting the sanctuary.
Okay.
So on paper, the White River Fish Sanctuary was gazetted in November 2017.
2017. Okay.
Yes, so we're only 3 years old.
Yeah. 3 years old. 3 years young.
Yeah, right. So they also came up with a motto of some sort, which is protect, restore, and engage. And that motto kind of describes what the sanctuary is all about.
The
so
vision,
you have protect, right?
The objective.
So you have protect, where the wardens will patrol the sanctuary area to make sure that no one is fishing, and also just to make sure that, the dive operations, because we have a lot of hotels on the coast within our sanctuary, to make sure that they are practicing proper boat
Etiquette.
Thank you. So they are in charge of making sure that area is, protected and kept pristine, so that the fish and the marine environment have a chance to recuperate. And then we have Restore, which is our coral restoration programs, where we grow corals on coral nurseries, and we leave them for a time, and then we take those corals and put them back onto degraded reefs within the sanctuary. And then Engage, which I think is the most important part, is where we do a lot of community education and public education. We try to work with schools, the community. We try to go further. We try to go outside of White River as well, just to let them know why we have a sanctuary, the purpose of it, why are we doing this, and, why they need to also understand, what we're doing this for. We're not just giving up. We're not just telling the fishermen, no, you can't fish in this space, but we're allowing the marine environment to recuperate and all these things. And the main goal, the reason why we protect, restore, and engage, is because we want persons, especially in the White River community, to practice sustainable fishing.
Yes.
And of course, environmental awareness, and, just to know that we as an island, Jamaica, is very heavily dependent on the coast, on the sea. That's where we get our food. That's where a lot of people have, their livelihoods. We're so heavily dependent on it. So it is very important that it is, maintained and restored.
Right.
So sustainable fishing, public education, and we try to increase the abundance of corals, because it is all linked to increase in the fish population over time. So that is our objective.
Okay, well, good. So what's your role in the organization?
All right, so I am the sanctuary manager, and my job is just to make sure that everyone else is doing their jobs. So we, as the sanctuary, I'm sort of the middle woman between
what does that mean?
Between the fishermen and other interested parties, whether it be sponsors or grants, different hotels, bridge between those two entities.
Okay.
So the fishermen are really in charge of the sanctuary. It is their sanctuary. They are the wardens. They are driving the patrol boat to do the work. They are we have fishermen who are coral restoration work. it's all about the fishermen. But in order to work with the hotels to say, okay, you are benefiting from the sanctuary in that you can send your guests out, you can use the sanctuary um, as a selling point, as you know, for your ecotourism aspect of your hotel, etc. So how can these two entities now work together to continue this project, to continue the improvement of the marine environment? So
Gotcha.
that's my job, to make sure that the fishermen are doing their part and to make sure that other interested parties, sponsors, grants can also become a part of the sanctuary and what we are doing.
Okay. So my next question goes to like volunteerism. You know, how do you feel volunteer divers could benefit your organization? And how would they work with you guys?
Right now, well, first of all, because we are a charity organization, we don't get help from the government. We have to source, help from wherever we can get it. So we actually depend quite heavily on volunteers.
Okay, yes.
So we never turn a volunteer away. Once you can dive and you are interested, we are definitely willing and able for the help. Because we are a charity organization, we have very limited resources, and we try to continue to do everything that we're doing because it's not about the money, it's about the environment.
Yes.
But we still have to have money to do what we need to do.
Yes.
So by persons who are willing to volunteer, it allows us to still get the work done without having to go over our budget for the month or our budget for the year. So it's something we depend on heavily. We are also, so it's always welcoming to volunteers. And it's usually a great experience for us to share our story and to continue the public education, because a lot of people say, okay, I would love to come help clean the nurseries or plant some corals. But a lot of persons don't know why we are doing this.
Yes.
So it gives us the opportunity to educate the public as well, which is a part of our objectives. So volunteers, they help us with restoring
awareness and all of that as well. Yeah. So what do you think the value add, what would be the value added in collaborating with an organization like, Shaw Medical Travel Consultants?
It would be just exceptional, for the sanctuary to be able to collaborate with you guys just allows us to get the opportunity to have more help, because right now with our resources, we are not able to go out and dive as much as we need to. Actually, we have 2 nurseries that grow about 2,600 corals that need to be cleaned, that need to be monitored, that need to be planted onto the reefs. We also keep track of bleaching events if they do happen. We have data loggers that take water temperature. So all these things that we would like to do to make sure that our coral restoration activities are efficient and effective, we really don't have as much resources to do that as much as we would like to. So by us collaborating, it gives us an extra hand then. And there's strength in numbers. So where I wouldn't be able to pay to have 4 dives a week, the volunteers can now do 2 days, and the staff do 2 days. Or I can split it. So I can say, okay, I will take 2 of my workers to go with 2 volunteers for the, it just gives us an extra hand.
Yes.
So it's a great value for the sanctuary to have volunteers. like I said, we never, ever, ever turn them away.
Rightly so. So let's kind of I understand that. So what do you think? I mean, so the sanctuary has been in place for, about 2 to 3 years now.
Mhm,
What
mhm.
do you find is the company's or your organization's biggest challenges to progress and sustainability?
All right. Sad to say, but I would say the biggest impact to, or the biggest setback to our progress right now would be just human activities,
Mhm.
unfortunately. So like I said, there are a lot of hotels within the area, and we are situated in a in an area where a lot of there's a lot of public interaction. So persons come to the beach. You have hotels. There are a lot of dive boats. There are a lot of like villas, hotels. I can't think of anywhere within the sanctuary that there isn't a piece of property right on the shore.
Right. Okay.
So not pointing any fingers, but that does lead to a lot of pollution within the sanctuary, and it is shown by the type and the amount of algae that's within the sanctuary. And then, of course, climate change is a big, big
Yeah.
issue. Um, it's something that we see all the time. Actually, right now, as we speak, I haven't been able to send out any divers for the past 2 weeks
Mm.
because there's no hurricane or anything happening, but the sea is just too rough. The fishermen can't go out to fish. We can't get our boats out right now because it's just too rough for
Right.
whatever reason,
Yes.
you know. So all the activities that we are doing contributing to and accelerating the effects of climate change, that's a big, big issue for us right now, as well as pollution, I would say, are the major setbacks to our progress in terms of increasing fish population, because we are actually unaware. We are a small organization. We don't have the scientific or financial resources to do research on how pollution affects
Mhm.
the growth rate of, the different fishes that we would find within a sanctuary. But we can take a educated guess that, of course, once the water quality is diminished or once it's not optimal, then the fish are gonna go somewhere else. They're not going to make this reef their home because of the amount of algae or the amount of sewage that's present in the
Mhm.
water.
Mhm.
And then when they go out of the sanctuary, they're, of course, at risk to be caught when they're at
When
this
they're that
size.
small, yeah.
Yeah.
So, you had mentioned that the hotels that, in part of creating, the sanctuary, hotels were part of that conversation. How do you feel, hotels and even the community, how involved are they right now with it?
Um, I would say majority of the hotels within our sanctuary are very involved.
Okay.
90% of them actually sponsor our operations, whether
Okay.
it's through a big annual donation or through help.
Yes.
So sometimes if we have a workshop, we can use the conference room at one of the hotels.
Okay.
Some hotels actually help us by refilling our dive tanks.
Okay.
Another hotel would say, okay, if our boat is down, we will help you pay for to use another fisherman's boat so that we can do patrols. Hotels are
Oh,
the hotels are very, very involved in the operations.
okay.
However, it's a bit difficult when you get to the conversation of what are you doing that could possibly be polluting the ocean. Because what we try to do is to say, you the hotels do have the power to look within your company and say, okay, how can we be more environmentally friendly? How
Mm-hmm.
can we work with the sanctuary? Because it's not just about getting the reef. It's not just about sponsoring these guys to get the reef improved so that our guests can benefit. It's also about the water quality. It's also about increasing the fish population so that the fisher community can benefit. So we, try to talk to them without pointing fingers, without placing blame.
Right.
To say, how can we work together? How can you do your part as a company without giving anything to us? How can you look within your company and say, what can we, or how can we do this better?
Well, and that's one of the things, well, actually part of the mission and vision with Shaw Medical Travel Consultants is big on education and empowerment. So, I mean, how do you feel the collaboration with, Shaw Medical would be with what your objectives and goals are, especially with, community education?
Right.
Because I do believe that if more information is out there on the implications of actions and just influence, the better it would be.
Right. I totally agree. I think, once we continue, because we do get to a number of persons, and you do see when you speak to some persons about, things that you do on an everyday basis that you might, overlook, and how that could possibly affect the sea. You do see a change in their thinking. You do see like, oh wow, I didn't realize. I
An
didn't
aha
realize
moment.
that. Yes, yeah. Collaborating and in fortifying the community education, then you just reach out to more people, and even if you speak to 100, even if you reach out to 20, that's a start. I mean, it's slow, but it's a steady progress.
Right.
And I think speaking to persons and just informing them of things that they did not know before, sometimes it might not be as it might not be absorbed as passionately as we would want it to. But I think once you continue, and once they continue to see it, once they continue to hear the same things over and over again, it will eventually seep into, because some of the fishermen, for example, some of them were with us from the get-go, but some of them we have to continuously reach out to and say, listen, this is for all of us. Sometimes I have to this day, even though we're 3 years into operation, I still have to explain to them the concept behind the sanctuary and say, look, this is not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen within a year. You have to give it time. We are not breeding the fish out there. We are just letting the environment take its natural course. So you have to give it time. So I think just reinforcing these concepts and, continuously explaining, and I think it makes a difference. It may be slow and steady, but it makes a difference.
It makes a difference.
And sometimes it's not about how fast or how many people you can reach out or how many people grasp the idea at once, but over time, the impact that you make over time, I think is what makes it worthwhile.
Yes. So as we close this discussion, is there anything else that you would like, the community or the outside world here to know?
I like to tell persons, look at what you're doing on a daily basis and ask yourself, okay, we are heavily dependent on the marine environment. So what can I do? Not necessarily, you don't necessarily have to be a water person, or you don't have to be on the coastline itself to do something. It's definitely worth it. And I think if each and every person adapt that mentality, then Jamaica as a whole, or the Caribbean as a whole, we would be in a much advanced stage than we are right now.
Yeah, right. Well, thank you again. Again, this was a conversation with Miss Reanne McKenzie of the White Riverfish Sanctuary. And I'm Tammy Carter with Shaw Medical Travel Consultants. Good afternoon, and I look forward to hearing more from you. Take
Yes,
care.
thank you.